All right, we're going.
What?
Yo, big pun. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's go, dog. Run that shit.
Please go home.
Yeah.
Please go home.
Later.
See you later.
It was the end of an era,
Mm-hmm.
and we're here to explain why.
I had to put my do-rag on for this one.
That's right.
Big pun in the
About
building.
to get real
Mhm.
gangsta.
Special
Yeah.
guest, big
I'm
pun.
getting gangster today.
Boy, Ian got this Pop Smoke do-rag on, looking real gangster right now.
So people may or may not have noticed a new sign in the front of our store.
And Instagram handle change.
Yes.
And
that did happen.
Instagram handle change. We have a new sign that says The Selection. We have changed the name of the store, and we're going to break down kind of what happened there and why we've had to transition to a new name and where we're going from here. In order to tell you that story, we kind of have to go back to the beginning, how we got that name to begin with. Earlier in our career, Scotty and I were still sales agents. A friend of mine that I knew had a brand.
You've known for a long time.
Yes, I knew him since I was like 18, 19 years old, probably, well, yeah, like 18 years old. And later on in life, we had the sales agency. We were going to help start this brand, a brand by the name of Please Come Home. We tried to launch the brand. Obviously, launching a brand of that magnitude at the time was very expensive, and so we didn't quite get it launched the way we wanted to. And then came time for us to open the store. And Scotty and I mulled over names for months and months, and we had the concept down, but we just didn't quite have the name. We went into a partnership to share this name in order to use it on the store. So that was the birth of the store that had the same name as his brand.
And the real way it made more sense is basically we love the name of the brand. We love the brand and the designs, but there was no platform to really build off the brand. So I remember talking with Larry and him, and I was just explaining to him, like, if we name the store Please Come Home, then the merch we make in the store can be Please Come Home, and it will be a selling point to try to get the name and the brand out there. And it made more sense just kind of creating the store with the brand inside the store and being able to launch it. And I feel like I was more able to sell that brand and move units if it was within my own walls of my own store. So it just kind of made more sense. And the name of it, it was very catchy. The way we explain the store and the tie into the name with brands from Los Angeles and Please Come Home Los Angeles, and basically bringing LA home, which is Dallas, it all just kind of meshed really well. And
Sure.
It made sense.
So it was essentially a 50-50 agreement to share that name, and essentially any clothing that was sold with that name on it, he got his half and we took the other half.
No ties to the store. Just ties to the brand.
No ties to the store, just only the brand in terms of that partnership. So at the beginning, the original agreement was for us to put up the funding to get the stuff made, and then we'd just pay him, which would include his profits, and we would deal with selling the clothes on the back end to make our profits, and that's how the business worked. And over time, we had to common word on this show, sacrifice a lot, lacing up athletes, lacing up artists, different things in order to get the brand name out. And so we weren't able to recoup as much profit as he was, because his profits were guaranteed and ours were only based on it when and if those products sold and the product performance. And with that being said, there were times where we would receive a collection and the colors weren't quite what we wanted or weren't colors that we would have chosen. And
that would actually sell well.
Yeah. And, we would get an invoice and have to pay all of it and try to deal with the sales on the back end. And so over time, we tried to make the best of the relationship and do what we did.
It wasn't really a money grab thing for us. It was more of a...
Thank you.
branding ourselves accordingly to help build within the city and just bring awareness, so that we were taking a lot of sacrifices on the back end to make these things happen, to have our products all over the city, and just kind of like everywhere you look, you'll see a Please Come Home, and just kind of bring that awareness within Dallas. So at the end of the day, you know, when you're not really profiting a whole lot because you see the bigger picture of the future, but the other half of who works with you on that end doesn't see that, it can just kind of be an eyesore in a sense.
Sure. And so at the end of the day, we tried to carry on the relationship the first couple years of the store being open. We made some cool collections. We sold a lot of merch. We laced up. We've seen a lot of celebrities wearing it. We've seen a lot of athletes, artists, and everything in between. The socks, we built some popularity with the socks. All of that stuff did really well. And then it was like, okay, we're starting to get the snowball rolling a little bit. Let's turn it up a notch. And so he moved here from California to Dallas. It was about a year ago. It's when we got this office, and it was like, all right, we're going to get this office. We're going to start going in. And realistically, there was a clash from the beginning. The personalities didn't mesh well for him and Scott. And I always tried to be like the mediator for the sake of keeping the ball rolling. But at a certain point, there was a breaking point where even I was like, okay, this can't continue. Yeah, it's not going to work.
I mean, he didn't even want to come to work.
Yeah.
Like when you have a business with somebody and you're around a bunch of creatives to create that creative atmosphere and or create special things, you got to be
around.
I don't want to say rubbing shoulders, but just like bouncing ideas off each other's brains in person. Like I feel like that energy within these walls can help create something special. And when that person's not there and it's all done through the phone, but they live in the same city as you.
But it wasn't even, and the thing was, he wasn't even good at the phone thing.
Yeah.
Like we never really had good phone, like text message conversations and stuff.
And what I will say is that it's not that he wasn't down to work. It was just he has a very Lone Ranger persona. Sure. And so that doesn't work for how team oriented we operate. Mm-hmm. And he's used to kind of operating on his own. And I hate to use the word selfish, but a lot of the actions were just like for his own benefit and not for the benefit of the team.
Now, as that's going on and we're having these trials and tribulations within the company for the brand, not the store, we have the YouTube channel. And so the YouTube channel is growing, and, you know, it's Please Come Home in the front, Private Selection in the back. Private Selection came later. So, of course, you know, it can't have the storefront name or anything like that because contractually we are Please Come Home. But the YouTube channel took off, TikTok took off, all these social medias are blowing up. And it got to the point where now Private Selection is a bigger entity than Please Come Home. People are now getting in their cars and traveling to the mall in search of Private Selection and coming to come see Private Selection. And so to have something that's bigger than the actual store be within the store in the back, it just didn't make any sense. So as we're having these altercations with the brand and the name Please Come Home, we're also having success on the back end with the YouTube channel. And so that was evolving while these things were happening.
Yeah, because when we opened this, we did this upstairs like, what, a year and a half already into Private
It was last
Selection?
August.
It was a year.
Yeah.
So we'd already been rolling with that before we even...
Mm-hmm. And we had just gotten to a point where we had started branding it, dropping merch for it.
We couldn't predict that the YouTube channel was going to get bigger than the store. But
and he did the first private.
Mm-hmm.
He did a couple of them.
He did a couple tees. The first merch we ever made.
And so going back to the situation and some of the trials, like for example, if we as a store, Please Come Home, the store, did a collab with a brand and we sold that merch in the store and it has that name on it.
Even though it's about the store, which has no ownership to the ties to the name.
He still gets a cut.
Yeah.
And so, you know, from a partnership standpoint, I get it. Yeah. I understand it. But there was still a level of like, it doesn't feel right you had nothing to do with this. This collaboration is with the store and celebrating the store and what we've got going on over here, not necessarily the name of the brand. It's not about that. It's just coincidence that the store has the same name.
So it started getting messy, needless to say.
It started getting messy, and he felt like certain things that we were doing, he deserved more and he deserved this and that. But it's just like, man, we're over here hiring and carrying a business and trying to build and keep our doors open and pay our rent and do what we're doing.
I'm here every single day, 365, working day in and day out
to build the store.
Yeah. And then I still have to sell again, I still have to sell the clothes, make the profits.
Yeah.
Put the money up front to get the profit or to get the clothes made. Then you have to pay your employees to sell the clothes.
So I get it from a contractual agreement. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, it wasn't conducive to the business we were trying to do and what we're trying to build here. And so it was like, okay, we're basically just going to start putting more emphasis on pushing the brand private selection at this point, because then there's no attachment there. There's no way for you to get offended. There's no way, to,
And it wasn't anything malicious. It was just like trying to make it not messy.
Correct. And so he was helping with that, with making those clothes. It's not like we just went elsewhere. But it was just a situation where it just wasn't quite working out. And then it got to a point where we owned the trademark 50-50 with him as well. And he was seeing that things weren't working out for him here in Texas. The way he operates wasn't, helpful to our business model here. And so he wanted to go back. So essentially he pulls out a paper for the trademark, and without any argument or even thought or hesitation, I signed that back over. Had Scotty sign it back over. We signed that trademark over, but now he owns that trademark fully, and we still have that name on the store. So that's kind of a awkward situation to be in. And so there were some issues with trying to transition over and changing the contractual agreement we now have with the mall in order to change our name. And so it took a while. And during that time, he's like, having his lawyers like send letters to the mall like, they need to take that down, they're infringing on my trademark, blah 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 blah. And again, it's like, it's not like we're trying to infringe on the trademark. We've had that name on
and steps you have to take
and
it's
so
not that fast.
And so he's like putting pressure and then just making it awkward for our relationship with the people we have here at the mall. So now it's getting offensive, because it's like, bro, now you're infringing on what I've built here and threatening our livelihood and our employees, all the people who get paid for working here and all of that. It's going to affect a lot of people. And so at that point, or even prior to that point, but at that point, it was really just like a true, like, all right, this is getting disrespectful at this point. It's like, just let it go. We're going to change the name. We don't even want anything to do with that name. I always loved it and I always appreciated it.
Yeah, Larry didn't want to let it go.
It was a cool concept and I didn't want to let it go. And I'll be honest, do you guys remember in the earlier days?
We had meeting after meetings, keep trying to smooth it out because for the sake of the name and the weight that it held as a brand and the future it could have provided. It could have been way bigger than what it was.
Yeah.
It was a great concept.
It was. And I tried to hang on to that name for a long time, and now I just want nothing to do with it.
And it just became one of those situations where too good to be true. I'd rather settle my differences than live in a headache.
Yeah.
It was a very big stress relief off of my shoulders, being able to cut ties with that. But I feel like companies rebrand all the time. And I wouldn't even say we're rebranding because we kept the same, the selection by private selection.
Yeah.
So
Let's talk about why we had to call it the selection.
It's just one of those things where we're already contracted as a clothing store. Private selection is seen as sneakers. So to find middle grounding, we came up with the selection, and they approved it and they liked it. And so we just went with the selection by private selection. And it's just one of those things where it's just a big weight lifted off of my shoulders, because at the end of the day, like, if I have problems with anybody in my business, I can come back, bring them to my office back here and have a talk with them and basically smooth out everything. And then we keep the ball rolling. In this situation, it was just almost like a redundant cycle
of not seeing.
It never
It
changed.
just never changed.
There was no us seeing his side, and there was no him seeing our
At all.
side,
and so
it just had to separate.
bittersweet.
Yeah. And so it's one of those things where it's not like it's not necessarily like a pleasure situation. You know, if you want to choose to continue to support, then, you know, by all means, do your thing. You know, I don't want to stop anybody, but just know that
it's not
that
coming
it's
from us.
not us. You know what I mean? If you're trying to support us, then that's not going to support us. And so just have that in mind.
People want more Please Come Home merch, and I just have to politely tell them, I'm sorry. Like, we're no longer affiliated with Please Come Home.
And so
I don't wish anybody the worst because I love that name and I love that concept. So I'd love to see it everywhere. It's just one of those things where I'm not associated with that anymore. So,
and let's talk about where our merch has gone since there.
Yeah.
Like, it's a situation where we've been able to do a lot more, have a lot more creative control over the concepts and the things that we're creating and putting out there. And in the last couple months, we've dropped some of the most successful merch ever. You know, on our own accord that we created, we built, no middleman creator, none of that. And
so we're able to take that money and actually the profits and reinvest and actually really build the brand.
Correct. And that's why you guys have seen us drop, 10 shirts over the last couple weeks, and you're about to see a whole lot of new stuff coming in for the holidays. So I think that it was certainly for the better, and you guys are going to see a lot more growth out of us. And that it is what it is. Mm-hmm. What about you? How do you feel about that name?
Which name?
The one that or do you have any like bittersweet, like leaving it behind? Like,
yeah, I mean, yeah, because it's like where we started.
He doesn't have as much of a tie as we do.
I don't have.
He's been private selection since day one. Right. So
he came in private and then inherited.
I inherited. Yeah,
Please Come Home later.
Yeah,
so it's not much of a tie.
It's not as much of a tie, but it's still like. That was the early days.
I still have one of the original Please Come Home pieces from 2016.
Yeah,
at my house. It was a little short sleeve hoodie with a zip on the side. It's pretty tight.
Yeah,
somewhere. I don't know where everybody kept it.
But and it's one of those things where I just feel like after all this time, like it kind of worked out the way it should have. I like that we now have more creative control. I'll be honest, in the earlier days, I was trying to hang on to, I couldn't see private selection becoming more than the merch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Just not necessarily a brand.
Slogan wise.
Yes. And having an identity as a brand. And then sure enough, here we are.
It's just because I feel like Please Come Home was spinning off the name a whole bunch to create stuff. And not just creating stuff and having the name just tied to it on the tag. Yeah. And I think that's what it was with private selection. You're trying to search for these quotes and messages within the name. Yeah. And that doesn't always have to be like that.
That's what I was about to say.
Supreme has just pictures and then they slap their name on there, but there's no meaning to it.
Jordan and I had that whole conversation.
The name doesn't have to tie to the design every time. He's like,
bro, Supreme doesn't have any, like nothing has to do with the word Supreme that they make.
But we started off Please Come Home with everything we made tied to that slogan. Yes. And so that's how you looked at it. And then it was also relatable to everybody, male or female.
I feel like it makes it easier to like make products when you can spin off the name instead of like really having to like create something and then
at
put
the end of the day,
it.
People always talk about brands and wanting to start a brand and asking me for advice. And I'm gonna tell you guys right now, I've said it before on here, like starting a brand is very, very, very hard. And I was talking to my friend Sydney last night on the phone about her brand. And this is crazy. I was telling her last night, I said, first you have to brand yourself and then the brand will come after you've branded yourself. So you let the people fall in love with you in everything that you do. And then when you create your brand, they'll support you. Or when you create your podcast, they'll support you because they first fell in love with you and now they'll fall in love with everything you do afterwards. So when it comes to a brand, it's like if you don't create something super catchy that everyone's just going to fucking virally catch on to and spread, then the hardest thing to do or the easiest thing to do is just have them fall in love with you first. And then anything you do afterwards, they'll follow.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And so I just think a brand is just so difficult.
It's so hard.
And you can't do it on your own.
Yeah.
Like at all.
No, you need a full team. So it's crazy how social media is a full-time thing in itself. Like just handling the social media for a brand. You know what I
it's
mean?
a whole department.
Like
to
that's
do
a
that.
whole department that you need because that's such an important, valuable thing
free
in today's
advertising.
world. And so you got to have all of that. You can't do it all by yourself. You can try. And then also don't be so hard on yourself. A lot of people will get stumped and over like trying to figure out a name and all of that. But like you guys said, like there's really no wrong answers. Just
At the end of the day, though, I mean, you got to have a meaning or substance behind it that makes it relatable to everybody or a certain niche or people for everyone to really love it. You know, you can't just slap your logo on there and tell your friends to buy it.
No.
It's got to have some substance.
Yeah.
You know, some tie to it.
I feel like 90% of people that start a brand just do that.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, you know, we started our brand private, really started our brand private way later down the road, you know. I think it's when SneakerCon happened. So a year and a half later, we started doing the sneaker cons. And that's when it made more sense because we started meeting our fans and subscribers and we realized how much they're really into us.
And they wanted
not the
merch.
shoes that we're always showing off and talking about, but like physically us and our traits and everything about us. So it's like, okay, these people really love us. So it's like, okay, what can we do to like make this work? And we really went in with the brand. And I feel like it was all perfect timing. Same with Private Selection. When we knocked the walls down and built Private Selection, it was all about perfect timing. When we started paying ourselves on the payroll, after we reached our marker a year and some months later, it was all about perfect timing. So I think we timed it correctly. And it just so happened that that timing matched perfectly with the changing the name of the store.
Yeah.
Everything kind of just meshed and went up together.
And then now we have a lot to look forward to moving forward. We got some exciting stuff coming, guys. I don't want to tell y'all too much, but just know like it's time to start dropping some major announcements on y'all.
But at the end of the day, we felt like it was necessary to just come on here and explain to y'all why we're no longer affiliated with Please Come Home, why we've changed the name of the store to The Selection, and understand that it was strategically done this way because Private Selection itself is moving a lot faster and going up, and it's smart that we take advantage of, you know, that in its moment.
Yeah, without having a partner who's going to take a large chunk of the profits out of it.
Right, when you're doing all the groundwork.
Yeah.
So
There it is.
Yeah. Thank you to everybody that supports us out there that's been buying the merch. I think our SneakerCon shirt, we've sold like thousands of units of that one style of shirt. And that's kind of insane when you do some simple math on that. So we appreciate all of y'all continuing the support. We've got some crazy merch dropping. We've got some crazy projects happening in the works. Get ready for 2023. The changes are happening and it's just all in due time, guys. So we appreciate you.
can I say if they got any design ideas to send them?
Yeah, what's up? We want to have a contest or something, or like a design contest.
I'll create a whole capsule with like 5 different pieces and be from 5 different subscribers and just drop a subscriber capsule.
Yeah. If you're a designer and you're watching this,
Tap in.
Create a
tap
team.
in. Create a tee. Let's create a capsule. Let's do something. Let's give y'all an opportunity to make some money with us.
Call it
Send
create
it to podcast@privateselection.com. I'll pop it down at the bottom.
Okay. Send your submissions to podcast@privateselection.com. We'll pop it up at the bottom so you guys can see
like
Private subs.
the capsule
Private subs.
the capsule by you. I don't know.
OnlyFans capsule.
OnlyFans.
That's tight.
OnlyFans capsule. Michael said it.
Yeah.
There it is.
The OnlyFans capsule.
Yeah.
Fans.
That's tight.
Only for the
That is
fans.
tight. All right, cool, man. We appreciate it, guys. Thank y'all so much.
Later, y'all.
Yeah.
Bye.